Well, that came out really good. Hi everyone. If you're a subscriber, welcome back. If you're new to my channel, my name is Riley. Welcome to my garden. Today we're going to be building and filling a raised bed. We're going to be replacing that raised bed, which has rotted away and needs to be replaced, using 2x12 lumber. And 2x12 lumber is actually not 12 inches by 2 inches. It's 11.5 inches by 1.5 inches tall, and that's a bit important, semi-important, when we go to calculate how much material we need to fill it. So all I'm going to do for the first step is I'm going to cut one of these boards in half, and then I'll cut 2-foot sections from this board. Normally I would stain the outside of these boards first before I assembled it, but I realized this morning when I started this project that I don't have enough stain left, so that will have to be done afterwards. Just get right at this. 4 feet. My angle. Just using a carpenter's angle to mark it and a pen. I know I said in a previous video I might make this board 3 feet wide, as it would still fit in between those two beds, and I could get my lawnmower in between, but I'm just going to stick with my original 2x4 feet. Let's do it. Two boards done. First two boards out of the way. I need two 2-foot sections. Mark. Mark. Done. Just like that. Let's build this raised bed. To assemble this, I'm just going to use a drill and some decking screws that are 2.5 inches long, which means these boards are 1.5 inches thick. So this is going to go through 1.5 inches and bury itself another inch into the mating board. And I've got one final step at the end that I do to make sure that these raised beds don't warp. And I find here in South Texas, with the intensity of the sun, no matter how I build them, they tend to warp unless I brace the sides, but we'll do that at the end when I'm done building this. One tip is, if you're doing this on the ground like I am, put down some bricks or paver stones or anything flat that you can work with. Now, you can see this board has an uneven cut at the top, so we're going to place this towards the bottom. And all I'm doing is I'm just lining this up like this. There we go. I want it to be 2 feet wide, so I have the 2 feet sections on the end. So, and the reason I want it 2 feet wide is the trellis netting I use has 6-inch spacing. So if it's 2 feet wide, this is very easy to slide a trellis frame over this. If it was 2 feet 3 inches, like it would be if I built it like that, then my trellis netting wouldn't work so well. So I guess I could use zip ties or something else. That was a comment somebody made once. So I've got this set up. I'm just going to come in from this side and drill right in. I don't pre-drill the holes. I don't ever have any problem using these grip right screws, deck screws. So what we're going to do, line it up on the top and the bottom, and you'll see I'm going to lift it a little bit. Now, another thing that might help to begin with is if you pre-drill the screws in. So that's what I'll do. Otherwise, it's kind of hard to get them started when you're horizontal like that. So, one right here. One towards the middle. And one at the bottom. And there we go. Now I need this side up just a little bit. I'll put that under there. Lined up. Perfect. Now the bottom and the middle. I'm going to repeat that on all four corners, and then we're basically done building the bed. And that's it. 5 minutes of work after you cut it, bed is built. One last step that I do, as I said, is I put on some brackets to keep these from bowing out. I just find here it really helps. I have them on all my beds. So these are pretty simple. They come with screws. They're not always the greatest screws. So if you buy some and the screws don't work well, you can always use sheet metal screws. They work really well. Let's get the right bit on here. If I can do it. Okay. Done. I'll finish all four corners, and then we're going to move the old bed and fill this one with all new material. Our bed is built. Honestly, I don't think that took more than maybe 15 or 20 minutes. It goes together really quickly. Now we need to take this bed out. I want to show you guys something here in the back because I've got a in-ground watering system for my soaker hoses that I need to cut out. Let's do that. I have this system in all of my beds, and what it does is I connect soaker hoses to this, and then I run it off a timer. So I'm going to close off the valve, and then I'm going to cut off the top, and I'll have to come back later and then replace all of this, which again is not a big deal, not a big job. Done. I'm going to take this out. That's getting wow right in the face. I am not going to be reusing this soil yet. I'm going to put it through my compost process one time. I know that I have cucumber beetle eggs in here because they've come out the last couple of seasons, and I'm also trying to address that in all of my beds this year, which is why you see this behind me, which is a whole other experiment that I'm doing with solarizing the beds. It's not working great so far, so we'll have to look at plan B tomorrow. All I'm going to do is just shovel this all up into here. I'll set it by my compost bins, and I'll be using it as brown material throughout the season this year. Well, that job is done. Gonna lay down my cardboard, move this over to my compost bin, and we'll start filling this bed. I have it in place, centered, leveled pretty much. Not perfect, but pretty darn close. I had to get this out, and I had to clear some, oops, there goes my rake. I had to move some soil around front to back to get it leveled out, but it's done. More work than I thought, but you know, garden projects, they never go exactly the way you want them to. So it's in place, it's level, we're ready to start making some soil. Now there are a lot of ways to fill garden beds, and this is only one of them. And the reason I show you this one is it's what I've used to fill my beds. I know it works, so I know if you do the same thing, it will work for you. It may not be the cheapest method out there. In fact, I'm sure it's not, but I know it works. So the ingredients are, and this is just standard Mel's mix, and Mel Bartholomew is the guy who came up with square foot gardening. And it's just, well, it's Mel's mix plus a little bit, but it's 1/3 peat moss. You could use coco coir as a substitute for peat moss, 1/3 vermiculite, and 1/3 compost. And for the compost, I already said, I think, black cow composted cow manure and some green waste compost I get locally. So adding to that, I'm going to add some balanced organic fertilizer for vegetables, 463. Not strictly necessary, but it's what I do with all of my beds, so it's what I'm showing you. Now to mix this all up, what I have is I have a 2x4 bed, and I'm going to leave about 2 inches on the top, and they're 11.5-inch boards. So when you do the math on that, it comes out to just over 6 cubic feet. And so we're going to be doing 2 cubic feet of each, the compost, the vermiculite, and the peat moss. And the way that I mix that up is 1 5-gallon buckets, 0.67 cubic feet. So 3 of these would be 2 cubic feet. So it's going to be 3 full containers each of all of these components. Now, the compost I'm mixing, so 2/3 cow manure to 1/3 the green compost. And I need to sift the green compost first because it has a ton of huge chunky stuff that's not composted in it. And there's also bits and bobs of stuff in there. So I'm going to sift that out first and sift out enough to have, I guess, 1 full bucket, and we'll be using that to mix into with the other compost. Just dump some on the top of here. And see what I mean? This is like a plastic, I don't even know what it is. But that's all through this local compost. And what's left over is just these huge chunks. So I don't want that in my bed right now. I'll go dump this out. I'll keep doing this until I have 1 full container. And then we'll be using that for this compost mix. Ingredient 1, peat moss. All right. I'm going to use this larger tub for my mixing. I'll put all 3 containers in. Then I'm going to dump it back and forth between that and another tub to mix it all up. Then we'll dump it into the new raised bed. Next ingredient is my vermiculite, and I already had some that I had from another bag. So we're going to try to pour it in here. And I have more. Final ingredient for this, no, not the final ingredient, second to last, composted cow manure. Two-thirds full with composted cow manure, and 1/3 of that brown waste, that green waste compost. Final ingredient is my organic fertilizer, and I need 4 cups of this. So 1 1/3 cup for each of these mixes. I'm going to do 3 of those. That'll be 4 cups, but I haven't opened one. Let me grab that, and then we'll mix this all up. 1/3 cup. I need 4 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is where it can get a little bit messy. So what we're going to try to attempt to do is dump it from here into here and then back and forth. And this is actually pretty heavy, so let's see if we can do this. Oh, it's not bad. And I think one more should do it. Looks good. Let's dump it in the raised bed. Beautiful. Last one. Let's see how it looks. Well, that came out really good. I got about 2 inches at the top for my mulch and my soaker hoses. I have to stain this bed on the outside, protect it from this weather, and I need to see if I built it right and if my trellis is going to fit on here. Perfect. So what I'll do here is, when I'm ready to put it on, and I'm not yet, going to be growing sugar baby watermelons up this year. I'll just screw it in to the sides. That's what I do with all these small beds. I did a video on how to make this. I call it a cucumber trellis, but you can be used for anything. That's it. This will be a lot longer than I expected. Besides making the video, I had the added job today of having to dig out all this and get it level. I just want to thank everybody for watching. Thanks for clicking on that video. If you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe. And don't forget to ring that bell so you'll be notified next week when we put out a new video.